Hey y'all, how's it going? I'm trading the ES futures on a 2000 tick chart with a 21 EMA. So I've got the overnight high up here and the overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. I started trading right here at 8 Central Time. So starting off, I'm going to remove this channel for a second just so I can show some more details. So price action levels, like I say all the time, they get larger as more time goes on. So starting off, we have this uptrend break, first attempt at a new high, and then the second attempt at a new high is down here. And so now, obviously, you want to wait for the second attempt at a new high. But the point I want to make here is on a big picture, we can clearly tell these two legs down here are one leg on a bigger picture. And so at first, when you see, this first attempt at a new high here and the second attempt at a new high here, after you start taking off here and some more price action starts forming, you can clearly tell that you have uptrend, break, and then this is your first attempt at a new high on a bigger picture. This is a two-legged break right here. So at first it is, these two attempts at a new high, but that is the first price action level. After that, plays out, we have this two-legged move down. We start pushing higher here. We can tell that we have to switch gears. We have to see the bigger picture structures that are forming, and we can clearly tell that we have uptrend, break, first attempt higher, and then this right here is this entry on the second attempt higher. So I like this right here. We had the measured move in play. We had our uptrend, two-legged break, first attempt higher, entry on the second attempt higher out of the STT, holding on the EMA. And I think I mentioned this, but we had this larger measured move in play. And I went for 1-to-1 because we found when we bounced right here, it was pretty close with this bounce. It wasn't like a perfect double top or anything, but I got out at that swing to be safe. And so anyways, we push on up here. We're completing this second leg, and then we start going sideways after we break out of the overnight high. So we break out just a little bit. We start going sideways, and now I can see we have first leg down here, and then we have a break and second leg down. So I can see these two legs down, but one, we're closing below the EMA, but even if we were closing above the EMA, you're right into the overnight high, and you don't want to enter into that. And then, of course, at this point here, you have no room to these highs right here. And so we end up pushing on out, but unfortunately no clear entries here. Now, at first, I had this channel like this right off that, so it wasn't holding off of this trend line. But even if it was perfectly holding off this trend line, you still don't want to enter into the overnight high. So anyway, so I adjust that to here after we take off right there, and then we don't reach it again. We almost do. We kind of just push up and we chop sideways over to the EMA, and you can kind of see that there's two legs down there. You got your first leg break, second leg. It's not very clear though at all. It's really just sideways chop over to the EMA, and then you get even more, smaller chop at your entry, and then there's not quite room anyway. So really no reason to go long there. But we push on up here. We push through that measured move level. Notice where we reacted at first. So these moves are important levels. And so anyway, we push on up here. We start correcting. We push down to the EMA. We get this first entry. And for anyone who's new, I don't care about each tick that goes by. I can see that we have first entry long and then second entry long right there. But the way that I view it is really just one leg down. I care about structure breaks, not little ticks lower. So like this right here, I just see one leg down. I don't see two legs down because of that wick. What I see is one leg here and then another leg here. So to me, this is a second entry. Obviously, this isn't a good long or anything, but compare this right there, first entry long, second entry long, to this right here. So this is what I like. I like to see the bigger picture structures. So anyway, so we meet that measured move. So we continue higher in this uptrend, but it's important to recognize that we did have this measured move and it was met. We pushed past it, but basically we had two legs up and then started reversing back down. And this channel did hold a third time, but it is important to recognize that it is still two legs up right here, and you could get a reversal after it. And so but either way, we did have a third bounce, so you can expect price to attempt a new high even for this uptrend here. So at first we get this break, and then, like I say, price action levels get bigger as more time goes on. At first we get smaller picture attempts, and then eventually we get these couple larger attempts, but we have first attempt at a new high, and then second attempt, and then it's kind of just holding in this downtrend here. There's no clear entries in here. It just gets choppy after this first entry. It ends up getting too choppy to take anything else, and we're in this clear kind of range. And then we push lower here, we bounce up, we get this first entry short. And now I don't like this right here. Just like I was saying over here, for anyone who doesn't know how I trade, I don't view this as a second entry, even though we have that tick lower there. I just see a first entry, and then it kind of got a bit sideways after. I don't care about that tick lower. I care about structure breaks once again. And I see that we have this, this overshoot, but as far as I'm concerned right here, we didn't close out of the trend line, and then we closed back in. So there was no structure break. I don't care about this little tick lower right there. So anyway, I don't like that as a second entry. Just a first entry and then got sideways. We push lower here. We bounce off that low again. We actually break out of this channel, and now you can see here we have downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, and we are at a good reversal area because, once again, we had those two legs higher here. It did hold a third time. We had 3 bounces off this trend line, or 1, 2, 3, almost 4. But once again, we had smaller picture attempts at a new high, and then when we broke out and got these couple legs higher, you can expect it to fail to the other side of this structure that it's in. We got a good setup for it, and of course, I'm trying to emphasize that even though we, had a third bounce and it's a confirmed uptrend, we still had 2 attempts higher. We had a couple of small attempts higher for this uptrend, and we can expect it to fail to the other end of the structure it's in. But I did not get filled. I was not the only person to not get filled on this. Someone mentioned to me on the site that they also were no filled. They were trying to enter further back because at first I was tempted to enter with a stop, but as you can see, I'd have to push it out of this, and I didn't want to risk pushing it out of this because I knew that we could technically get larger picture attempts at a new high for this uptrend, and I was taking these 2 attempts at a new high, and then we had such a nice failure bar that I like this area, but not enough to push it out of this possible resistance because it's been pretty damn consistent, holding every time. So I went in with a limit order. Unfortunately, I did not get filled on that. It never came back. And anyway, we push on lower here, and then, which this blue line I want to mention. So at first, notice this measured move right here. I'm going to move this one for a sec. So we push down here, get this break, draw out the measured move. Look how well that reacts. You're not always going to have like the legs looking the exact same. Clearly we had this leg and it formed over the course of a while, and then this one just dropped straight down to that level and had a pretty good reaction. Of course, it didn't last long, but the point I'm trying to make is these measured moves are important. They're not always going to, bounce, and price isn't always going to reverse at these levels, but even though these legs look totally different from one another, the measured move still held the same if you draw out the level that it's on. So anyway, but I did end up drawing this right here because even though you could view that as a couple legs down right here, it really was pretty sideways. If you look at it on a bigger picture, it really was kind of sideways after breaking this uptrend, and then we had 2 clear legs down stemming from here once we started really spiking down. So I ended up adjusting that. But so we pushed through here, we pushed through that level right there, and we pushed back into the overnight high. And so this right here is a great trade, and I was very happy to see that there were quite a few people who got both of these, and then there was also others who tried to enter on this. So I went to the Discord before making this video, and I saw that there was 2 people that said that they had their best day ever today. So I was very happy to see that. But anyway, so I'm going to draw out this wider channel just for a visual. So clearly we have a big picture failed second entry. You can see from here, even though we had this leg before on a big picture, this reversal really starts from here. That's where we start spiking. We have first entry long, second entry long, failure. Very clear, big picture failed second entry, rushing below the EMA. 1-to-1 has room down to that previous swing. So this is a really great looking entry. And so once again, 2 measured legs up, retesting the overnight high, failed second entry, fade. Really great looking entry. So we push on lower here, and then here I want to extend this channel right here, which I'm also going to make it a different color really fast just to make it a little bit more easy to see. So it didn't hold so well off these lows here, and I actually might delete that really quick just so I can draw it out like this. So when we started approaching this trend line right here, we still had this measured move in play. So we had a big spike down and a very strong reversal pattern, failed second entry. And so, price is likely to try to reach this measured move down here. So when we got a clear 2 legs back off this trend line and then a huge rush down, so like a really good signal bar, I really liked this just to ride to that other swing. Because we had such good momentum. It's basically, on a big picture, you zoom out, I really view this as a lower high after a failed second entry. So it's basically a momentum trade, holding off a trend line with a very strong signal bar, measured move in play, and then also, with that being said, still getting out before that previous swing. And so I really like this trade right here, which, 3 great looking trades, basically back to back. Unfortunately, I got no fill in that. But I saw many people in the Discord today that got at least 2 out of 3, kind of like I did. And so I was happy to see that because, last couple weeks there's been some slower days. I mean, there's been some great days, but it's just been, it's felt a little bit slower. And then even a couple weeks ago, there were 2 days where I didn't take any trades. And then, some 1 trade days. So getting a day like this was really nice. It was, pretty easy. And so anyway, we broke this. So now that we had those 3 bounces, we push on out of here. You can kind of see those 2 legs up, but I mean, that's really just on a big picture 1 leg. But as you can see, the price action still holds. After 2 legs up, we reverse back down. I kind of like to see if that's measured just so I can, emphasize measured moves to people. So let me just cover that one more time. So yeah, this is a measured move right here. So like I say, these measured moves are very important. Even when it's on a smaller picture and it's on a big picture, you can clearly see it's 1 leg. But if you zoom in on the small picture, the measured move will still hold. So it's just important to see that. Which there's not a clear separation in the swings right there, but my point is, you really got to get these measured moves down if you want to see bigger picture structures. Because look at how strong it reversed. This was basically, the measured move was where it reversed to make a new low for this right here. So anyway, we push lower here. This would have been a great area if we had gotten like a clear failed second entry. But unfortunately, we don't get that. We just get this lower high, which I would want to see a more significant swing, like like a push down and then like some clear bars up holding on the EMA, not just like a wick higher and then closing on the low of the move. That's kind of just like shorting low in my opinion. I would want to see a clear pullback, kind of like any of these trades right here, not just entering at the low of the move. But we continue lower here, correct, we don't reach the EMA, and then we finally reach this measured move level. We push through it, nearly reach the overnight low, and then we start reversing higher here. And there's a reason I did not like this short. Now we had 2 legs higher and then it ended up holding below the EMA. We closed below, but there is something wrong with it. So it's a combination of 2 things. So 1, this measured move is still in play and it could make another attempt to reach it. Now that's not the only reason. For instance, like right here, clearly you had this measured move still in play, but there's a reason and that's the fact that these 2 legs down were just met, so it's likely for a reversal. So if you still have a measured move in play, a bullish measured move in play at a major reversal area being 2 legs down, I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to wait for another attempt to reach that measured move first, because like I said, you can easily make a second attempt because you make the first, when you make that leg up and break and then you start pushing higher, you can drag the measured move over. So you really have push up, break, first attempt to reach the measured move, And so you can easily get a second attempt to reach that measured move. And considering that you're at a major reversal area, that could very easily stop you out on that second attempt. So there's no way I would go short right here. But we push lower here. We get this a lower high. It's not a very good signal bar, and I just didn't really like this area right here because it was, at this reversal area. It kind of found resistance near this other swing, so it kind of seemed sideways and rangy, so I just avoided all of it. But we push lower here, we get even more choppy, we break out of the lows, we hold off this trend line again, and so we bounce up here, and then this would have been a great area for a long had we got a good setup. We could have rushed above, got a clear failed second entry, and as long as we had room, we could have taken a failed second entry. But unfortunately, we only got this higher low right here. Notice when I draw this, I can see the wicks lower, but to me, I care about structure breaks, and as far as I'm concerned, we just have this uptrend break, and then first attempt at a new high. And so you're entering on only the first attempt at a new high with no room, and it's choppy anyway, so there's unfortunately no entry for me there. We push up, so now we can clearly see there's a couple legs up here. And then with this trend line, at first it was right off those bodies, and then I'm not going to go short right into this channel right here. And then we push on lower here, and then we get this, it's almost like a failed second entry from here. You can see first entry long, second entry long, failure, but it ended up getting really choppy before a trigger. And so this is about where I stopped trading this area right here. And then let me draw out this range because that's pretty clear. And so we push out of that, we get this first entry, and then at this point you're just shorting very low. I would not take that. I mean, we just made a new low. First entry, certainly not going to take this as a failed second entry. Some may say, you have this swing up here, you can have first entry long, second entry long, failure, but I mean, it's getting really choppy. You're shorting really low. It's clearly forming some kind of resistance, especially, which I should have drawn this a little bit earlier out. And then it's just kind of chopping in this area right here. So I don't like that. And then of course you zoom out, you can see on a big picture, we're just dropping straight down. So I don't like shorting that low. But anyway, so we get this, we chop over. Let me try to draw this out right here. We get this little breakout pullback kind of thing, but of course, you just made this double bottom. It's, not reaching the EMA. There's no real reason to take that. We push out lower here. We brush back above the EMA. And now you can, even with this downtrend being in play, if you rush above and you get a failed second entry with room to the high of this channel right here, which I would extend to there at that point off that swing. But if you can get a failed second entry with room to the high, then that's fine. When you come off one side, you can expect 2 attempts to reach the other side. So if you can get a long to make that second attempt, so long as you aren't going for too big of a target, like even if you have room to the other side of the channel, for a long, since you're in this big downtrend, I would still limit into 1-to-1 because it's technically counter trend trading. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different when you're expecting the second attempt to reach the other side, but you have to limit in your target. And if you're a beginner, I'd advise to not do any kind of counter trend trading. But if you know what you're doing and you understand, how channels work and how when you come off one side, you can expect 2 attempts, then then you can look for something. But if you're brand new, I would avoid any kind of counter trend trading because it's easy to, think you're doing it right when you're not, and then it'll just cause a whole mess. So if you're new, just stay with the trend. But anyway, so we end up pushing on lower here. Say because when you come off one side, you do want to see 2 attempts to reach the other side, and so what I'd like to see is a rush below and then like a very clear second leg. So that way it'd be like 2 legs up holding on the EMA, but we don't get anything like that. We just plummet down. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.